Hey friends, here is a nice equation that we have to solve. Here we have two absolute functions, 2 power absolute y minus absolute of 2 power y minus 1 minus 1 equals 2 power y minus 1 plus 1. When we have absolute functions, we need to see when the term within the absolute function changes from positive to negative. Then we can break this function into different equations. Let us see how. For example, absolute value of y. Absolute value of y is equal to y when y is greater than or equal to 0 equals minus y when y is less than 0. As simple as this, right? For example, if it is y is greater than 0, for example, it is 2, absolute value of 2. If it is minus 2, then it is minus of 2, minus of y. Okay? Then y is minus 2, minus of y, which is equal to 2. Right? So, now, similarly, we have this 2 power y minus 1 whole of absolute. Okay. Again, this will be equal to 2 power y minus 1 if this thing is greater than 0, greater than or equal to 0. If this is equal to this, if 2 power y minus 1 is greater than or equal to 0. Okay. What does that mean? If this is greater than or equal to 1, 2 power y minus 1 is greater than or equal to 1. What does that mean? 2 power y minus 1. What is 1? Is greater than or equal to 2 power 0. 1 is 2 power 0. What does that mean? Y minus 1 should be greater than or equal to 0. What does that mean? Y is greater than or equal to 1. Okay. When y is greater than 1, greater than or equal to 1, this one will change value. What this means is obviously when y is less than 1, this 2 power y minus 1 absolute value of this is equal to minus of this entire thing, 2 power y minus 1 minus 1. Okay. Now, what we have realized? We have realized at 0, this thing changes, and at 1, this thing changes. Okay. At 0, this thing changes, and at 1, at 0, this absolute function, this value changes, and at 1, this absolute value function changes. Right. Now, basis this, let us break our let us break the overall equation into different parts. When y is less than 0, when y is less than 0, when y is greater than or equal to 0 but less than 1, and the third one is when y is greater than or equal to 1. Three parts, right? This is changing at 0, this is changing at 1. So less than 0, when it is y is greater than or equal to 0 but less than 1, and y is greater than or equal to 1. Let us see all the three equations. First equation, okay, let's see y is less than 0. Then 2 power absolute value of y will become 2 power minus y. Okay, this entire part is anyway less than less than 0 as long as y is less than 1. So this becomes minus this entire thing, 2 power y minus 1 minus 1. Okay, because this entire part is changing value, is becoming positive at y equals to 1. Y equals to 1, 1 minus 2 power 0 is 1, 1 minus 1 is becoming 0. When y greater than 1, this is becoming positive. Till then it is negative. When y is less than 0, this entire part is negative. So we'll write minus of minus. Okay, equals 2 power y minus 1 plus 1. Okay, this minus of minus 2 power minus y, we can write it as plus 2 power y minus 1 minus 1. This minus and this minus will get cancelled. Okay, equals 2 power y minus 1 plus 1. This one and this one will get cancelled. Right, this becomes 2 power minus y equals 1 plus 1, 2. That means, that means 2 equals 2 power 1. That means minus y equals 1 or y equals minus 1. Okay. When y is less than 0, we got one solution. What is it? Y equals minus 1. There is no other solution. So far, so good. Right. Now let us take the case when, let us take this case again. When, let us take the second case. Okay. 0 less than or equal to y less than 1. Okay. By the way, 2 power y or 2 power x, the graph will look something like this. Right. 2 power y. Okay. When y is 0, 2 power 0 is 1. When y is 1, 2 power 1 is 2. When y is 2, 2 square is 4. Okay. When it is less than 0, then it becomes smaller, 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 and it will try to approach 0. For example, 2 power minus 10 or 2 power minus 100, whatever. 1 by 2 power 100, this becomes. This becomes very small, very small. It will approach 0. Okay. The graph of 2 power x or 2 power y will look like this. Now, 0 less than or equal to y less than 1. Okay. In this case, y is greater than 0, so this part will become positive. So this becomes 2 power y. Now, minus of this thing, this entire part, when y is less than 1, when y is less than 1, right, when y is less than 1, 2 power y, 2 power y minus 1, 2 power y minus 1, minus 1. This thing is still less than 0. So this part will become minus of minus again. Minus 2 power y minus 1 minus 1. Okay, equals 2 power y minus 1 plus 1. So this we don't change because this is not an absolute function. Okay, so now this becomes 2 power y plus 2 power y minus 1 equals 2 power y minus 1 plus 1. Okay, this will get cancelled. 2 power y equals 1 plus 1, which is 2. That means 2 power 1. That means y equals 1. But so we discussed that this is applicable for y less than 1. So y greater than or equal to 0 and y less than 1. So let's park this now. Okay. So we don't need to worry about this. Okay. Let us take the third case now. What is the third case? When y is greater than or equal to 1. Okay. When y is greater than or equal to 1, here we are getting y equal to 1. Sorry, here we are getting y equals to 1. Okay, the only solution. Okay, here we got only solution as y equals to 1. Okay, now let's take the other case. What is the third case? The third case is y greater than or equal to 1. What does it mean? This is positive, this is also positive. So this equation will become 2 power y minus of 2 power y minus 1 minus 1. This is positive, so absolute value of this will be the same. Right, equals 2 power y minus 1 plus 1. Okay, so what does that mean? 2 power y minus 2 power y minus 1 plus 2, sorry, plus 1 minus of minus 1 is plus 1 equals 2 power y minus 1 plus 1. This 1 and this 1 will get cancelled. Okay, we can erase this. Okay, now this one will become 2 power y equals 2 power y minus 1 plus 2 power y minus 1. That means 2 times of 2 power y minus 1, which is nothing but 2 times of 2 power y minus 1. 2 power 1 times 2 power y minus 1. That means this 2 will become equals 2 power y, right? A power m into a power n. What is this? A power m plus 1, right? So 2 times 1 plus y minus 1, which is equal to 1. That means 2 power y equals 2 power y. Okay, and y greater than or equal to 1. So whichever y, this will always match. Whether you take y equals 1 or 1.5 or 4 or 10, it doesn't matter. 2 power y equals 2 power y. So for all y greater than or equal to 1, all y greater than or equal to 1, this equation is satisfied. Okay, this equation is basically same. Left hand side equal to right hand side when y is greater than or equal to 1. So what are the solutions? When y is less than 0, it is minus 1. This is one solution. Union, minus 1 union, union, y greater than or equal to 1. That is 1 to infinity. Okay. So with this y equals to 1, here we cannot take it, but that y equals to 1, we are taking it here. Okay, here because we restricted y less than 1, so that's why when we got y equals to 1, we are ignoring this. But doesn't matter. That y equals to 1 has come here. How does this happen? Here y equals to 1 we are not able to take, but here we can take because when y equals to 1, so for example, why because when y equals 1, 2 power y minus 1, what will this become? This becomes 2 power 0 minus 1. That becomes 1 minus 1 equals 0. So now absolute value of 0, whether you write it as plus 0 or minus 0, it doesn't matter. That's why this is happening like this. Okay, absolute value of y equals y or minus y, it doesn't matter. When y equals 0, whether you write it as plus y or minus y, it doesn't matter. Absolute value, both will give the same results. That's why when we ignored here, we still got the same result here. Okay, because at 1 this equation is actually becoming this term is actually becoming 0. So whether you write it as y less than or equal to 1 here or y less than 1, it doesn't matter. Okay, even if I had written y less than or equal to 1, it would still give the same result, right? Because at this point, this value will become 0. So whether if you had included less than or equal to 1 also, it would have been fine. But instead of including it here, we include it here, and still we get the same result, right, guys? Hope you like this. This is the process how we handle these functions or equations involving absolute function. Okay, so we'll just understand whatever is there within the absolute function, and then that term, when will it change from positive to negative? Depending on that, we will break this equation into multiple small equations. Here we needed to break this into three different equations, and we solve that. Right, guys? We just need to be careful about the conditions in which we are breaking. Right, if y is less than 0, then only when y is less than, if we get a result like this, which is less than 0, then only we can take. If y is less than 0 is our initial condition and we got y equals to 2, then we cannot take. That care we have to take. Right, guys? Hope you like this. Thank you.